Part 4, The Enemy, page number 34, book Vistas. This man, he thought there is no reason under heaven why he should live. Unconsciously, this thought made him ruthless and he proceeded swiftly. In his dream, the man moaned, but Sadao paid no heed except to mutter at him. Groan, he muttered, groan if you like. I am not doing this for my own pleasure. In fact, I do not know why I am doing it. That means when he was pulling out the bullet from the enemy's body, means Sadao, when he was operating the man, he was groaning out of pain, and Sadao was saying that you have to groan, but I don't know why he doesn't know why he is treating the man. The door opened and there was Hannah again. Where is the anesthetic? She asked in a clear voice. Sadao motioned with his chin. It is as well that you came back, he said. This fellow is beginning to stir. She had the bottle and some cotton in her hand. But how shall I do it? She asked. Simply saturate the cotton and hold it near his nostrils. Sadao replied without delaying for one moment the intricate detail of his work. When he breathes badly, move it away a little. She crouched close to the sleeping face of the young American. It was a piteously thin face, she thought, and the lips were twisted. The man was suffering whether he knew it or not. Watching him, she wondered if the stories they heard sometimes of the sufferings of prisoners were true. They came like flickers of rumor, told by word of mouth, and always contradicted. In the newspapers, the reports were always that wherever the Japanese armies went, the people received them gladly, with cries of joy at their liberation. But sometimes she remembered such men as General Takima, who at home beat his wife cruelly, though no one mentioned it now that he had fought so victorious battle in Manchuria. If a man like that could be so cruel to a woman in his power, would he not be cruel to one like this, for instance? So looking at that, that half-dying man who has been recently operated by Sadao, Hannah is thinking of if the man is handed over to the corps or to the generals, he may not be greeted so gladly. He will get the ultimate torture from the corps or from the higher authorities. So even she thought it not, she was also in a dilemma that whether or why they are doing or why they are treating the man. Even she was in confusion. She hoped anxiously that this young man had not been tortured. It was at this moment that she observed deep red scars on his neck just under the ear. So that means she is thinking of, she is recalling the rumor that already had been told in the above lines, that the prisoners are tortured. So might be, this young man might have been tortured also. Those scars, she murmured, lifting her eyes to Sadao. But she did not answer at this moment. He felt the tip of his instrument strike against something hard, dangerously. Near the kidney, all thought left him. He felt to only the purest pleasure. He proved with his fingers, delicately familiar with every atom of this human body. His old American professor of anatomy had seen to that knowledge. Ignorance of the human body is a surgeon's cardinal sin. Studs, he had thundered at his classes year after year to operate without as complete knowledge of the body as if you had made it. Anything less than that is murder. It is not quite at the kidney, my friend, Sadao murmured. It was his habit to murmur to the patient when he forgot himself in an operation. My friend, he always called his patients, and so now he did, forgetting that this was his enemy. So he forgot everything. So while operating, he used to converse with the patient, saying my friend, and whatever he had in his mind, he used to say. Then quickly, with the cleanest and most precise of incisions, the bullet was out. The man quivered, but he was still unconscious. Nevertheless, he muttered a few English words. Guts, he muttered, choking. They got my guts. Sadao, Hannah cried sharply. Hush, Sadao said. The man sank again into silence so profound that Sadao took up his wrist, hating the touch of it. Yes, there was still a pulse, so faint, so feeble, but enough, if he wanted the man to live, to give hope. But certainly I do not want this man to live, he thought. No more anesthetic, he told Hannah. So he doesn't want the person to live. He has done his job, so no need to give more anesthetic. Let him get back to his consciousness. Let him feel the pain. He turned as swiftly as though he had never paused, and from his medicines, as he chose a small vial, and from it filled a hypodermic and thrust it into the patient's left arm. Then, putting down the needle, he took the man's wrist again. The pulse under his fingers fluttered once or twice and then grew stronger. This man will live in spite of all, he said to Hannah inside. The young man woke so weak, his blue eyes so terrified when he perceived where he was, that Hannah felt compelled to apologize. She herself served him, for now the servants would enter the room. When she came in the first time, she saw him summon his small strength to be prepared for some fearful thing. Don't be afraid, she begged him softly. How come you speak English? He gasped. I was a long time in America, she replied. She saw that he wanted to reply to that, but he could not, and so she knelt and fed him gently from the porcelain spoon. He ate unwillingly, but still he ate. Now you will soon be strong, she said, not liking him and yet moved to comfort him. Means everything she is doing, but unwillingly. She is feeding, she is taking care, but everything unwillingly. Even the patient is also not willing to take their help, but still, because he wants to live. The enemy, he also thought that he has to live. So if he has to live, he has to take the care from the Japanese family. He did not answer. When Sadao came in the third day after the operation, he found the young man sitting up, his face bloodless with effort. Lie down, Sadao cried. Do you want to die? He forced the man down gently and strongly and examined the wound. You may kill yourself if you do this sort of thing, he scolded. What are you doing to do with me? The boy muttered. He looked just now barely 17. You are going to hand me over. Are you going to hand me over? For a moment, Sadao did not answer. He finished his examination and then pulled the silk quilt over the man. I do not know myself what I shall do with you, he said. I ought, of course, to give you to the police. You are a prisoner of war. No, do not tell me anything. He put up his hand as he saw the young man was about to speak. Do not even tell me your name unless I ask it. They looked at each other for a moment, and then the young man closed his eyes and turned his face to the wall. Okay, he whispered, his mouth a bitter line. Outside the door, Hannah was waiting for Sadao. He saw at once that she was in trouble. So that means Sadao and the man, they exchanged hatred against each other. They are not liking each other. But still, what to do? They have to, being a doctor, he has to treat his patient, and being a patient, he has to take the care from the doctor. Sadao, Yumi tells me the servants feel they cannot stay if we hide this man here anymore, she said. She tells me that they are saying that you and I were so long in America that we have forgotten to think of our own country first. We think we are Americans. It is not true, Sadao said harshly. Americans are our enemies. But I have been trained not to let a man die if I can help it. So he has given his answer. You can understand. The servants cannot understand that, she said anxiously. No, he agreed. Neither seemed able to say more, and somehow the household dragged on. The servants grew more watchful. Their courtesy was as careful as ever, but their eyes were cold upon the pair to whom they were hired. So they were not trusting their masters anymore. They were loyal, but still the trust was gone. It is clear what our master ought to do, the old gardener said one morning. He had worked with flowers all his life and had been a specialist too in moss. For Sadao's father, he had made one of the finest moss gardens in Japan, sweeping the bright green carpet constantly so that not a leaf or a pine needle marred the velvet of its surface. My old master's son knows very well what he ought to do, he now said, pinching a bird from a bush as he spoke. When the man was so near that, why did he not let him bleed? So the gardener is saying that I have been serving this family for so long, and still they are, they have that, sympathy and affection for Americans. That young master is so proud of his skill to save life that he saves any life, the cook said contemptuously. She spilled a fowl's neck skillfully and held the fluttering bird and let its blood flows into the roots of a wistaria vine. Blood is the best of fertilizer, and the old gardener would not let her waste a drop of it. So what they are saying, according to them, if the enemy would have let to die, if he would have let to bleed, then his blood would not be wasted by the gardener. It would have been utilized as a fertilizer. It is the children of whom we must think, Yumi says sadly. What will be their fate if their father is condemned as a traitor? They did not try to hide what they said from the ears of Hannah as she stood arranging the day's flowers in the veranda nearby, and she knew they spoke on purpose that she might hear. That they were right she knew too in most of her being, but there was another part of her which she herself could not understand. It was not sentimental liking of the prisoner. She had come to think of him as a prisoner. She had not liked him even yesterday, when he had said in his impulsive way, "Anyway, let me tell you that my name is Tom." She had only bowed her little distant bow. She saw hurt in his eyes, but she did not wish to assuage it. Indeed, he was a great trouble in this house. So the prisoner said his name as Tom, and he tried to to converse with Hannah, but Hannah did not reply anything. Rather, she did not wish to assuage anything. She did not like to take care or to pay more attention on the prisoner, whatever the prisoner said.